Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the brand new Marvel series, which is the first out of the gate for Phase 4 of Marvel, which is WandaVision, the first series that we've gotten to see, and also the first thing in general we've gotten to see of Phase 4, which obviously we didn't get to see Black Widow yet, but that is just an unfortunate casualty of the ongoing pandemic. But we have a show now. We have a series, the first series that's coming out of the gates. And let me just say that this is going to be a spoiler video. We're going to talk spoilers. Not that there's a lot of crazy stuff in these first two episodes for me to spoil like crazy, like in Season 2 of The Mandalorian, but we're going to do spoiler videos nonetheless. So these first two episodes are directed by Matt Shakman, and I believe he's doing the entire series, which he did 2 episodes of Fargo, the last 2 episodes of Season 1 of Fargo, which, obviously, if you guys know me, I absolutely love Fargo, especially the first 2, and then 3 and 4 are a little worse than the first 2 seasons, but I love the first 2 seasons of Fargo, and this show is a swing for Marvel, and I'm sure you guys have heard that from every single review that you guys have seen of this, because I'm sure everybody's watching a bunch of reviews, but this show is really... It really does dive deep into the sitcom thing, and I know the marketing was heavily kind of pointed towards the sitcom-y aspect of the show, and I believe every single episode is going to basically jump a decade in the world of sitcoms, which is kind of cool. The first episode was definitely an homage to I Love Lucy, with a whole dinner scene where the situation in the sitcom is the fact that Vision's boss and his boss's wife is coming over for dinner, and they kind of have to host them because he kind of wants to get this promotion at his work. And, you know, the weird part about this 50s sitcom is that they're Wanda and Vision. They have the powers that they have. Wanda has to cook a dinner, and she's making things float around because she thought it was an anniversary. They don't quite know how they got there, where they moved from, whether or not they're married, when they got married, if they're married at all. At the end of the episode, you know, they pop rings on their fingers. They're like, you know what? This is going to be our anniversary. Today is now our official anniversary. And a bunch of just weird things, because these characters themselves don't really know why they're in this situation, whether or not Wanda is doing it herself, which is heavy speculation from everybody of speculating whether or not, you know, of her sadness of course, Vision's death in Avengers Infinity War. Is she kind of creating this world to bring him back, or is this something more, you know, sinister going on with the possible references of S.W.O.R.D, which I don't know too much of S.W.O.R.D in the comics, but there are references for that in this show. And when I say they dive into the sitcom theme of it, I mean they dive into the sitcom theme. The entire first episode is the show, the sitcom. You even see the opening credits with you know, starring Wanda Maximoff, starring Vision, and starring all these different people as the characters that they're playing, which is really funny. And again, like I said, this is a very clear homage to I Love Lucy, which I did watch, I think 4 or 5 episodes of I Love Lucy in a TV class that I had because I'm a film student. And, you know, in those old episodes of TV, they have commercials right smack dab in the middle of them of these random things. And there's a toaster commercial made by Stark Industries in the middle of this episode. And again, this is where you get to see a lot of these weird little Easter eggs are pointing towards what this actually could possibly be, what the whole meaning of all of this is, because in the second episode, I'll talk about the commercial of that in a second here, but they have a Hydra symbol in there, which is another weird and strange thing, that they're kind of dropping these little bits and pieces, and you don't know what's going on. You really have no idea what's going on in these first 2 episodes, but they do kind of lead towards the end of each of the episodes to zooming out of that TV, and you get to see the TV screen, and you get to see people doing these things in the background, and that's where you see the S.W.O.R.D symbol, which people on Twitter have already pointed out. So I mean, there's a lot happening behind the scenes of these first 2 episodes, and I think one of the negatives that I have about this show so far, which is really the only negative, is the fact that we've only gotten 2 episodes, and those first 2 episodes have not fully explored what the full extent of what this show is going to be. And I do think, from what I've seen from other non-spoiler reviews, because they gave critics the first 3 episodes, and they're saying the 3rd episode really dove into what's kind of going on, and so we're gonna have to wait a week for us ourselves to get that. But from what I've seen so far, I'm in because of the wackiness of the show. Let's get into episode 2, because episode 2 is where it really gets wacky. The situation of the second episode, which has a lot of animation in it, which, tell me in the comments below, what sitcom are they referencing with this animated intro logo that they have, and the animated sequences of Vision swallowing a piece of gum and then getting stuck in his gears? Like, what is this referencing? This has to be referencing some show that I just have not seen, but that was very, very funny. And like I said, the wackiness of this show, of them taking these 2 characters with these powers and putting them in a sitcom and having them try to do a talent show, and they're going to have a magic act, and Vision eats a piece of gum, and then he becomes basically drunk. You get drunk Vision in this episode. And Paul Bettany is fantastic as Vision. I love him in this role, especially in this show, because he gets to play around with comedy. He gets to play around in such a weird and different way. Same thing with Elizabeth Olsen. They get to play around with these characters so much, and I love that about this. And so they're on stage doing this magic show, and they have their powers, and they're making things float, and Wanda is trying to keep drunk Vision kind of settled and not revealing their powers, and there's a bunch of weird characters that kind of surround them, with Kathryn Hahn being my favorite of all of them. She is so over the top in the best way possible. She is straight from a 50s sitcom. You get Wanda and Vision, you get their characters, and you get their back and forth, and the peeking behind the curtain of their powers and what they know, and their knowledge of who they were beforehand, or at least what they remember from beforehand. And when it comes to these other characters, they're just sitcom characters. And so you have this Dottie character, which is very interesting. And I believe there's doing a kind of Wizard of Oz type thing, which obviously I'm assuming you guys have all seen Wizard of Oz, but you have the beginning of Wizard of Oz in black and whites, and you have all these characters that are surrounding Dorothy and her family. And then when she gets into Oz, all those actors who played her family and neighbors and whatnot, they all play different characters, like the Lion, like the Tin Man, and all those characters inside the world of Oz. And I think these characters, like Kathryn Hahn, are actually on the outside world going in, and whether they're members of S.W.O.R D, or obviously you have Monica Rambeau, which, we heard that casting earlier before, and she pops up in episode 2, and she kind of introduces herself with this pseudonym, so you don't really know that it's actually her just yet in the show, but obviously with casting we know that she's playing the older version of Monica Rambeau, who was the daughter of the character in Captain Marvel. I forgot her name, but she's in the show as well, and so she popped up in episode 2, and that's what I think is going on. If I'm going to give any sort of theory or any sort of guess of what in the hell is going on in this show, I think that it's probably S.W.O.R D, this organization that's kind of opposite of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think that's what S.W.O.R D is. I have not done research on that. Let me know again in the comments down below. Keep me up to speed on all these things, because I'm not doing heavy MCU research. I don't read the comics or everything like that. I just enjoy these films and now these shows so much, and so that's what I think is happening. I think S.W.O.R.D has Wanda under control, because maybe she lost, maybe she snapped in the real world, and we've had evidence of that in the past, where in Captain America Civil War, when things were starting to happen, when the Sokovia Accords are starting to lock down, and she lifts up that bomb and it blows up a building, and she kind of blamed for all the casualties that happened in that event, and even Stark himself kind of tells her to stay at the compound and don't leave, and kind of holds her captive, because whether or not he has trust in her to use her abilities or to not lose control of her abilities. So that's what I believe is happening. She's losing control of her abilities. She's captured by this new organization called S.W.O.R.D, and they're kind of putting her in her own mind, secluding her. Maybe she did that herself. We don't know yet. And the show has a lot of creepy vibes in it too, which, Christian Harloff in his review for it said that, it kind of has a Lost in Pleasantville type of vibes to it. And I don't really see the Lost aspect of it, but I guess maybe the intrigue. The show has a lot of intrigue in it. These first 2 episodes will definitely lure you in and have you intrigued in what this mystery is. It might turn you off because of the whole sitcom thing. If that's not your type of thing, if you don't like how over the top and wacky it is, that could make some people kind of hesitant, but I do think you guys should hold out. My rule for TV shows is always do 3 episodes, and then if you're not hooked by 3 episodes, you can bail. If you're sort of kind of interested, at least watch the first season, if not 6 episodes, and if you're completely locked in by the first 3 episodes, then you're going to probably love the show. That's my recommendation for TV shows, and this show has a lot of intrigue, so I do think these first 2 episodes, and especially the third one that's coming up, which hopefully is great, those will probably lock you into this show, what I'm guessing from what I've seen so far. And the Pleasantville connections with how creepy it is, because Pleasantville is like this weird, location, this weird town that has all these weird people that are kind of just, they seem like soulless robots that kind of just go through the motions, and you don't really know what's going on. It's very creepy, it's very unsettling, and you get elements of that. There's weird noises happening. There's this drone that falls from the sky. The Dottie character, that weird character that is just kind of running the talent show, she breaks a glass and her hand starts to bleed, which is another cool stylistic thing of the show being in black and white, but some things being in color. And those are just kind of, hints at what's going on, like the toaster. The red light on the toaster was blinking, and that's the first time that it happened. And of course, by the second episode, everything turns to color, and it gets more of like a Brady Bunch vibe, which I also grew up watching Brady Bunch. So I hope they do a really wacky Brady Bunch type episode. That would be a lot of fun. That's what I'm hoping the next episode is. But that's WandaVision so far. It's really weird and bizarre and wacky, and I'm liking it a lot so far. And this is what I was hoping to get for this show, because MCU does a lot of great things with taking a genre and running with it. And if this is how they're doing it, and they're taking the sitcom genre, they're plugging into this TV show and they're completely running with it, what are they going to do with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? Are they going to go full horror like I really want them to do in that movie with Sam Raimi and with Elizabeth Olsen also being in that movie? This entire show has the key to unlock the whole new world of the MCU, whether that's the multiverse or whether that's different elements of genres that they can dive into. It's very intriguing and it gets me very excited for the future. But thanks guys for watching this just fairly long spoiler review for the first 2 episodes of WandaVision. I'll probably do one for every single episode every Friday, exactly like this. So if you guys like this video, subscribe. Let me know what you guys thought of the first 2 episodes in the comments down below, and I hope to see you guys all in my next video, which I also believe I will be reviewing 2 movies this weekend, because there's a new movie on Amazon Prime called One Night in Miami. I believe it's the Regina King directorial debut with a bunch of great actors, and I've heard it's really great. And there's another with movie with Anne Hathaway on, I think, HBO Max about quarantine, and I think Chiwetel Ejiofor is in that movie, which I am not looking forward to that at all, because any movie that's actually set during COVID times just feels like wrong time. This is not the time to do it, but I'll do reviews for both of those later on this weekend. So like I said, check out those videos, subscribe, and I hope to see you all in my next one.